Hi, everybody. Enough about science. Now coming seriously to the point about food, because obviously we are all food lovers, we are all chefs. And as I said, possibly the audience is quite small, but I know hundreds of people are following us currently. So talking a little bit about us, who we are and where we are actually coming from, just explaining very, very briefly, I'm a proper chef from profession, meaning I'm in catering, gastronomy and hotelery business since roughly 30 years, so it's not just a short journey, quite long time. I'm working for LSG since, let me think, 7 years. Before that, I did work for Juan Amador, roughly 8 years altogether, so I also have 3-star Michelin experience and a couple of other ones before as well. So at a certain point I need to make a decision, family or still cooking and dying poor. I decide family could be a better idea. So Mathieu, maybe you can explain a little bit about yourself. I don't want to tell you.
Shall I? You know, when French speak about themselves, it sounds very, secure. My name is Mathieu Castex. I've been working for LSG for 7 years now as a development pastry chef first in the region Europe, and then I was also asked to help the people in the region. You have to know that LSG Sky Chef have, before crisis, had 250 kitchens worldwide and in all the world, represented in most of the countries in the world. And so there were always a team of experts that were always flying to the station to support the local teams. 2 years ago, I joined Jörg's team in the corporate, and also following my specialty and passion for pastry. I was working also 20 years before in Michelin star restaurant as pastry chef, and in 2011 I was chosen in Germany as a pastry chef of the year. And I'm very happy to be here, and I hope you will like the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Not just talking about us as chefs, talking also about LSG. Who is LSG? LSG, just explaining briefly as well. LSG is the Lufthansa service holding, meaning we are one of the biggest providers for airline catering food. So, in this sense, it was somehow logically the next step to get above sky, meaning start to entering space. So just to explain you also a little bit what are the techniques behind. I believe we have a film. If the film is available, please go ahead. Two years back, we had a very cool project, what was space food, what means we did develop and finally deliver food for one of the European astronauts to the International Space Station. In the situation to deliver food to space station, we were not able to deliver frozen food, very simply because there are no fridges up there. So we need to find a solution. The solution for us was basically ambient meals, what means shelf-stable, uncooled. And for us, there was just one process what did perfectly work. It was autoclaving.
Once a product is in the autoclave, the temperature and the pressure is increased till a certain point, depending on the nature of the component. Then the temperature and the pressure is held for a certain period of time. In this period, all of the bacteria is killed. At the same time, by doing so, we can keep all of the vitamins and the good nutrition in the food, and they're not destroyed. Once this process is complete, we cool down the product to stop the cooking process and to keep the color, the texture, and the taste in the food.
Flavor-wise, there are absolutely no changes. The flavor stays where it belongs to, but you have to choose very carefully which kind of food you're going to cook in an autoclave. So, in general, braised beef or braised dishes are working unbelievably good. So basically what you saw here was just a rough overview, but before I'm going to jump deeper into the topic to explain you a little bit better what are the technologies behind, Mathieu on the side is going to prepare one of the dishes Matthias Maurer is going to eat up at the International Space Station. And the dish is actually called Rostige Ritter, but if I would translate it straight away into English, would be roasty night. Sounds strange. Very traditional dish, especially in the area where Matthias Maurer comes from. Actually from poorer times in the past where people didn't really have access all the time to food, meaning it's made of old bread, a little bit of milk and sugar basically. That's all what it is, and also cinnamon. So Mathieu is going to prepare this dish in a fresh version, and then we are going to give you a try also from the space food. Because what we would like to show you is the difference in between the fresh product and the canned product. So, talking about the canned product, of course, as I said, you know, coming from a three-star Michelin restaurant, I have to be very disruptive with myself. Because canning food, honestly, was like, okay, not a good idea. You know, we all know canned food. Usually the quality and the flavor and taste and smell is a bit, yeah, it helps somehow if you're seriously starving, so meaning it fills your stomach. But on the other hand, we learned a lot. So we found, as I said, the perfect technology, what is sterilization. We all know sterilization because our grandmothers used it in the past when they basically pickled and made food shelf stable and put it in the basement. So a jam, for example, is nothing else than sterilized food. So nothing to worry about. Meaning, again, we all know it, but you know, when we go in a shop, we all also kind of, okay, there must be some additives inside what are unhealthy, you know, no food could possibly last over 1 year. There must be something weird going on. So, meaning, and as I said, the technology was very, very important, sterilization. We found a technology, we understood a little bit better what the technology is capable to do. We found out that we are actually, with this technology, are able to maintain a maximum in vitamins and micronutrients in the food. So we are not talking about dead food, what just gives you the feeling that you're not starving anymore. No, it is seriously nutritious and good food. So, on the other hand, we had to learn, okay, how we are going to can food. It's not just done by, okay, putting food into cans and that's it, and cook it a little bit. No, because we were supposed to send the food over to the United States. Next hurdle. Because the USDA, the CDC, all of them have certain requirements what we had to fulfill. So what was the way? Back to the desk, learning again. So, of course, ESA is always very supportive. There are certain regulations what made the way kind of more easy for us, but in the end of the day, there were many, many things to be done. So, on the other hand, as Professor Reinhold Ewald did explain, astronauts have certain needs, and some certain things needs to be avoided, like salt. So, we had to find different ways. What was the ways? Now, I believe one of the chefs before did show it very, very well. Indian food. Spices. So, via adding spices, umami flavors, and also the flavor of different kind of fermentation processes did help to give the astronauts then in outer space the feeling, hey, the food is rich, it tastes good, without adding too much salt. So, of course, ESA again, they seriously helped us there as well with the astronaut medical service. So, the whole journey basically took up to 6 months, something like this, until we were able to put the food into cans. Coming back to the space project, what Matthias Maurer and Bernd Breiter is currently running, because I received a call a couple of months back where they said, hey, we need help. We have a new project. I said, okay, what is the project about? They explained me a little bit. They said, okay, sounds interesting. You know, 6 months, it's the required time for us to be able to produce something like that. And said, okay, but there's the hurdle. We have just 6 weeks. So in the end of the day, we even made this somehow possible. But not talking too much about technology, talking a little bit more about food, I guess it's a better idea to hand over to Mathieu that he's able to explain a little bit what he is currently doing here.
Well, a French guy doing a French toast, maybe you already saw this. It's not about really the technique of the...
I need to interrupt.
Yes.
And actually, a rusty night, rostige Ritter, is nothing else than a peine perdue, just in the German version.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's hurting him a lot to call it rostige Ritter.
Yeah, it's actually basically a peine perdue. There is many ways, and I think in many regions of the world there is a different way to do this kind of French toast. The one in the region from Matthias Maurer, it's basically traditionally will be made with half elder bread, and you will soak it overnight in milk. But first you will actually you will powder the crust, and then you will do like anglaise. That means you put it first in the flour, and then in the eggs, and then at the end in the roasted crust. This is the very traditional way. And then normally it will be eaten with seasonal fruit, ragu, or anything, or just vanilla sauce. Vanilla sauce. What we did by the choice of the menu for Matthias Maurer is actually we asked a few Michelin star chefs, or actually not necessarily Michelin star chef. I think it was a chef from the region from Matthias. It's called Saarland. It's basically the region from the higher portion of the common frontier between France and Germany to Luxembourg. So this is where Matthias is from. And we designed a few dishes. Maybe you want to talk later about it for Matthias Maurer, with the idea of providing a feeling of being home in the space. For the astronaut, I think it's very important. They are a long time out of home and out of the country, and this bonus food, we find it important that they have a link back to home. You know, the emotion of having a dish that they usually eat at home.
It's a very important point what Mathieu mentioned. I actually completely forgot it. Thank you, Mathieu. So I know the isolated way of living in outer space, it's very, very harsh, especially mentally. So you do not see different people. You're locked basically in a can by yourself for at least 3 months, up to 6, and even above and beyond. So meaning, yeah, you need something what keeps you mentally healthy. So, and this is the reason why the European Space Agency did decide in the past, astronauts have the possibility to choose tailor-made food basically for them. So, usually the food is chosen by personal preferences for a couple of reasons. So, for example, Alexander Gerst in the past, he chose cheese spätzle. Very simple and easy explained. Because it's a childhood memory for him. His grandmother did cook it always. And as we all know, we chefs as well, you know, memories are created by our limbic system, meaning by our taste, smell, and. So they're fixed in our mind. They really help us to keep us mentally stable and healthy. Otherwise, the risk to break down in times like Professor Reinhold Ewart at his MIR projects, so the risk to break seriously mentally down were much higher. So, very traditional dishes, as Mathieu just explained. For Matthias Maurer, Alexander Gerst was slightly different. Via his travels, obviously, so he took for his mission up to the International Space Station Indian butter chicken, because it did remind him to his time back in India. On the other hand, he took, as I said, cheese spätzle, memories of his grandmother, and a couple of other things. And that's how this dish is, as I said, usually chosen.
And the project for Matthias Maurer started, as I said, with a contest with the different chefs of his region. And there was a voting from actually people that were looking at the TV. They had the possibility to choose the dishes, and it came this meal choice. So this is the way I'm going to prepare it. It's actually the way you might find it in some Michelin star restaurant in this region.
Yeah.
And then after we're gonna have a test as well at the end of the actual space food that Matthias Maurer is gonna have, so you can compare the way. Was the idea also of the show to show the way where we come from, what is the original dish, and to show the way that we had to the final product.
So, as Mathieu just said, you have to adjust the food, of course. Not everything is good for a can. You can possibly imagine Wagyu beef, mid-rare in a can would not work, definitely. And it wouldn't make sense anyway. So that's, as I said in the video, so braised dishes, so one-pot dishes, as they are called as well, they seriously work because you're simply not able to destroy the product. For example, if you would be a Hungarian astronaut, fly to outer space, best choice would be a goulash. You could simply not destroy it. And as I remember back when my grandmother did cook these stews, it actually did taste better after the third or the second and the third time reheating. It's getting better and better and better. So instead of getting worse and worse and worse. So in this case, of course, we had to adjust as well. Rostige Ritte is usually a very crunchy, pan-fried piece of bread, what is quite soggy. So crunchy in a can, no way. There is nothing crunchy. And if you believe you will be able to find a way to make it crunchy, you have to dehydrate it. So, meaning we had to adjust it, and we basically did use the way of a very classic pudding, so bread pudding, but we were able to add into the can, you will see later on, and we also add the vanilla sauce and the cinnamon, and I still believe it tastes seriously good, and it tastes better than it looks. On the other hand, just jumping back also to the general topic, what I said before, because I highly and I strongly believe that when experts, scientists, and dreamers, I call them, or disruptive people are coming together in one room, they're able to create something much, much, much bigger. And believe me, I got the proof when we were invited by NASA, by SpaceX, and ESA for the launch of the SpaceX rocket who delivered the food to outer space. I didn't understand why all the scientists and the politicians said to me, don't take pictures, you need to see it by your own eyes. And I said, okay, why should I? And I did follow the advice. I saw the rocket leaving the planet, and I did question, why we are actually doing what we are doing on this planet. We are made to create bigger things. We should not fight with our neighbors, even if they're annoying. I strongly believe everybody has a talent, and it is worth to be listened and to be heard. So let's put all our ideas on one table, even if we don't like each other, even if there are cultural differences. And yeah, it is difficult to work with Germans sometimes. It is difficult to work with Latin American people and also with French people. But this is a quite long ongoing fight in between us anyway. So, and I think this project did show very, very well what we are capable to do. And, a chef is more than in the past. And we are already some kind of scientists beside our profession of cooking. So, Mathieu, how are we looking? Are you cooking? Is there a bus coming or something?
I don't know. I decided to make 50 portions. I don't want to leave someone hungry,
So, as I said, Mathieu is pan-frying the bread then, as the next step. And then he's going to plate the food. And you have the possibility to try it, as I said, in a fresh version. And after this, we are going to plate the food what Matthias Maurer got or will get in the International Space Station. So you really have a comparison. Are there so far any questions? You know, you had now twice the possibility to raise questions to astronauts. You will never have this possibility again, I guess. So there were no questions. So feel free to ask. Don't hold back. You can ask any kind of question. As a professor of MIT told me once, he said, Jörg, there is no stupid question. Every question is, you know, I know, but even the stupid questions are worth to be heard and to be spoken loudly out. So, any questions so far? Yes.
How much does it cost to send one portion up to space?
How many portions?
How much does it cost to send one portion up?
That's very difficult. It's a very difficult question, and I'm a very politically correct person. So, you know, you have to understand that I'm not able to tell you how much it is, because we are the supplier of a customer. So it is not cheap, because you can imagine it's an industrialized process. We need to rent a machine. If we do not have a machine, we need all the certificates. So meaning it costs more than the common ravioli can you find in any supermarket. So, but altogether, and that's what I can tell you, is that the transportation process is the most expensive part in it. So you can approximately estimate that a kilo bring to outer space costs you 10,000 euros or something like that. So you count together, then you possibly have a rough idea. Yeah, but as I said, it's not a cheap product. But you know, going in 3-star Michelin place, it's also not cheap.
And you can assume that once the can is in the space, the can is the most expensive can that have been ever made.
And yeah, if you would bring it back to Earth, and if you would consume it, you would eat the most expensive food on Earth. That's what I can tell you. Yeah, cans is currently the standard of the European Space Agency part Germany. They're using the cans. Just to explain a little bit how this is reheated, and please, Professor, jump in if I say anything stupid. Heat is a big problem up there, because same in a submarine, a fire, you can imagine, you would simply destroy everything up there. And I think a couple of astronauts did experience fire in space stations, and yeah, that's why I'm looking in your direction. So we all know the Mir had a fire problem in the past, and there is nothing else worse than fire on a space station. Meaning they have to find ways how they're reheating, meaning they're not allowed to go over a certain degrees. So you can, everybody knows a toaster. So it's fixed in between two platters who are warming it up. And I'm not saying reheating, it's warming it slightly up. It takes approximately 30 minutes, and then you can eat it. But you also could eat it cold. There will be no harm to your body. It's absolutely safe. Meaning this product went also 3 times to a laboratory. When it arrives in the United States, at the hand of NASA, they are putting it again in the laboratory and checking it again. So it's seriously safe. And again, still vitamins, minerals, and everything inside. So it's healthy, good, nutritious food. Any other questions? Okay, then I'm talking a little bit more about heat in space.
Something about the food you had put in and how long is the shelf life stable?
Yeah, good point.
If you go to the hospital after this.
No, as I said, it doesn't harm you. I ate it now a couple of times, and I'm actually already sick of it. I cannot eat it anymore. I had to try it so often. But the requirements of NASA is, and it changed slightly in the past, also Matthias Maurer mission, we were supposed to make it 2 years uncooled shelf stable. New requirements, 3 years. So, and everybody, say it again, who was in the army, we all experienced this kind of food, and it didn't taste good at all. This tastes good. Yes?
That's about the time to talk about the Russian exam in food. We actually do a lot of exams when going through our training. Every training part, life support system, propulsion system is finished with the training. So, and one day, an American astronaut, friend of mine, Michael foal was undergoing the Russian exam for food, and they would ask the question, which food are you not allowed to eat? And they think of food that has expired, that has probably been damaged, where the package is damaged, or where you visually can see there's something not in the right order with this food. But he thought of another answer, and this answer entered into cosmonaut history. He said, I'm not allowed to eat the commander's food. The food of the commander. So there is a personal preference choice for everyone, and everyone can order more of this food, or more of a fruit cocktail, or more of something that you like, and it's kept in a personal preference kit. And beware when you start eating the food that the commander has actually selected for him or herself. So that was the answer to the question, what are you not allowed to eat? But other than that, there are instances in space where you really have a cultural misunderstanding. There was the case where a French chef would send up mousse au chocolat to the space station. When you opened it in a not slightly warmed thing, you would expect the fat, it's cocoa nut fat, to be still solid. And an American astronaut opened the can. He was not familiar with this food and said, over open loop, I have seen little white dots on the European food. Immediately, all the European food was banned from eating. It was just that he would not recognize that he had to heat it slightly in order to make it homogeneous, like a mousse au chocolat is. When you take it out of the fridge, it's not the right substance. So things are dangerous, and the training says be more than careful when you open food that is not in the right condition, but there are also funny misunderstandings in this.
Yes, actually, very good point coming to this as well. I believe that food is the biggest transporter of culture, and I think we saw it today a couple of times, especially when it came to the Indian food. So what is your first touch point when you are going on a vacation with a new culture? It's usually food. So when you're sitting in an airplane, you usually get the food, what you can expect when you're arriving at your destination. So commanders, they're usually sharing the food now for a couple of reasons. So sharing in the International Space Station is a big topic because all the astronauts usually don't know each other from before. So you need to have something you can share to explain who you are. So I'm from Germany, here my cheese spätzle. If you're from Russia, thank you very much, I take the borsch, to understand a little bit better who you are and where you're coming from. On the other hand, Friday is cleaning day on the ISS, means all the astronauts has to clean. And the cosmonauts, we want to be politically correct. Now, I don't know how the Japanese astronauts are called. They're cleaning. And after the cleaning, they're sitting together and having a proper dinner or lunch. So really start to mingle. As we heard before, they do not have the time to have a proper chat and a conversation in between each other because they're simply packed with work. Because time means money up there more than down here. They have a lot of projects and things to do up there. So they're really sitting together. And Alexander Gerst, for example, he took quite a lot of his food up there and he seriously shared it. And he also convinced one of the Canadian astronauts, David Zonchak, to take also a couple of his cans to the International Space Station. And as far as I know, he seriously loved it. And I hear it already from Cologne. There are also some other astronauts who are looking into the food we already developed and other things. So, Mathieu, how are we looking?
We are going to start to...
You have to understand he works since 7 years in the office, so forgive him, he's quite slow. But me too. It's actually the first time since ages that I'm wearing a chef jacket, so I'm used to suits right now, and honestly, I still didn't get used to it, so I still prefer the chef jacket.
One important point, and I think it will be interesting as we have Professor Hewald here, is how the food will be reheated in the station.
Where is it?
how the food will be reheated, how the can will be reheated on the.
Yeah,
on the
I
station.
explained. You didn't listen, as usually. French people
Oh, I
are not
was-
listening.
sorry, I
so
was doing
as I
something
explained,
else.
you know, between the two platforms, you see, there's misunderstanding always in between Germans and French people, and the opposite way around. So
Sorry, I was doing something else.
yeah, he's doing the work, and I'm just talking. I know. So I guess Mathieu is nearly there, and I believe he needs some help.
Yes.
Where are the prunes or plums? Die kann ich ja schon reinmachen, oder?
Ja. Also the plum compote.
Always the camera people in the way. Take a spoon and help.
I think I've been too generous anyway. Excuse me.
You know, on the other hand, also quite sad topic is, you know, sustainability starts to be a bigger and bigger topic for all of us. So, you know, 1/3 of the food in the world is thrown away. With this kind of technologies, we would be able, you know, to avoid this. So we should be seriously open to new technologies to avoid, because I don't want to destroy this planet any further. I would like to hand over a planet what is more or less in a kind of a good shape to my son, and not explaining him afterwards why we didn't do anything. So we have to be disruptive. We have to reconsider what we are doing and how we are doing it. And that's why I really like today also all the information about our consumptions, about proteins, what we are doing, what is the right and the wrong way, you know, and some people have to do the first steps.
Well, it looks delicious. Maybe I have also one question. Because you were testing the food, does that also mean that you're testing the preferences? What do you do with allergies, for example?
Very good question. So in general, astronauts are very healthy people. They do not have any allergies. No, honestly. Of course, if there would be allergy or any certain kind of need, what should be, what is required, of course, we would be able to do this as well. So we would simply avoid certain products. But talking
Sometimes you don't know. So do you test all the food before going to space?
Actually, all the astronauts are well tested, so they know how they're going to react to certain products. So we get all the necessary information from the medical service of the ESA. But there are certain products what has to be avoided, as I said before, and Reinhold Ewald said as well. Salt is something what should be definitely avoided over a certain quantity, but also alcohol. So, big topic, no alcohol in food. I always say there is no fun up there. And the sad thing is, you know, alcohol helps me to understand slightly better how zero gravity feels. So, and I still remember last night, to be very honest.
So we still have time if there are any more questions for... Do you have a question? Yeah. We'll pass the mic. That makes it easier also for people following online.
Why do you put it in metal when you can use something thinner and less weighty?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Could you please repeat it?
Yeah, why do you have the food in a metal container when it is heavy?
It's, you know, I'm able to control a lot of things, but I'm not allowed to tell ESA what they're supposed to do. So this is simply the standard. But we have to follow certain technical restrictions. I mean, we seriously have to follow what ESA tells us. Currently, they're reconsidering if this is the right container to provide food, because yes, it's round, you need much more space, pouches would be possibly better, and that's what we are currently also looking in. But good point as well about waste, because everybody would possibly question what happens with those cans. Are they returning to Earth and will be burned? Half and half answer. So, but the professor is sitting up there. Maybe you would like to answer this question. What happens with the trash? Because water is it's like gold up there. So
Thank you.
Certain water left in here, so and of course they're going to clean it, and all the water in the space station is reduced, meaning every water what leaves our body via different ways, sweating and will be reused in the ISS, meaning everything what you drink, your former astronaut had already in the body. Sounds weird, but the water what we are drinking on Earth, went through several of bodies, animals and human beings, but.
Yeah, this is H2O, so you have to look at it that way. Very good question with the packages. As long as we are in Earth's orbit, the space station is reachable by a lot of transport carriers. We have a fleet of transport carriers, international fleet now. And so the weight of aluminum cans does not count so much as opposed to other things. But if you go on a long stretch to the moon or to Mars, you certainly will have to think of packages. And the idea is to do packages out of eatable material. So instead of having a plastic foam or some foam that you have to throw away, you would put already nutrition elements in, do a mix, some kind of pudding or whatever, and then 3D print it into something that the astronauts then later consume, heat it up and sterilize it for sure. But this is on the long stretch. The effort would be too much for the Earth orbit, because it's still cheaper and in producing it easier to go the normal way with cans and then trash them. By the way, these cans are put in a returning transport capsule, and these capsules, except for some special capsules, burn up in the upper atmosphere. And we have to answer also concerns of bringing this stuff into the upper atmosphere, but with a frequency of 1 capsule per 4 months or so, this is not counting too much. So on the long run, yes, we will move away from packing things with material that we have to throw away. We rather reuse it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And honestly, believe me, when I start to be in touch with astronauts, something I never could ever imagine I will be in touch with, I start to be like a little boy again. I had so many questions. And there's still so many open questions, and possibly, I could spend days with astronauts. And it always starts with a very simple question. How about the toilets? I think everybody has it in his mind. How you're doing it? And, there are simple answers. And then we went in Cologne in the test module, where they basically get trained. So I saw the sleeping cabin. I said, okay, why there's a sleeping cabin up here and here and here, and none in the bottom? So very simple answer. Our brain, as it functions, we need fixed points. So what tells us, you stay straight, this must be ground, that's Earth. So, but what happens if you're the opposite way around? And the writing still is like this. Our brain starts to struggle. Where's up and down? Where's up and down? So meaning they follow a very simple rule. So writing goes like that. This is the wall. That's where we work. In sleeping cabins, it's different because you close them. Meaning you go in the ceiling, here on Earth, keep in your mind, so you go in the ceiling, fix yourself on a belt, close the door, or this little rubber thingy, close it, and then our brains start to look for fixed points again. Then you have again the writing like that, and your brain tells you immediately, okay, that's a wall, that's up, that's down. Very, very interesting. I'm going to put also, we are going to plate currently the tint version of the Rostige Ritte. I'm going to put also an open can on the tray so everybody can see how it looks before we are taking it out. Also, one of the questions we usually get asked, how they're eating. Are they using forks and spoons? Yes, everything the same like on Earth. So the only difference is they have something where they can stick it on. So on the legs, on the arms, on the walls, whatever, to ensure nothing floats around. As I said,
Smell good, isn't it?
don't mind the look.
Yeah.
It looks
the
strange.
fresh one.
And I have to say it looks stranger and stranger and stranger.
Of course, there's no comparison to the fresh one, but it's really to explain where we're from and what we can do in the space.
And which one is your favorite?
I like both, actually. I think
No, I mean of all the cans you made.
for me, the dessert, yeah, actually, and the dish that has the most spices because they are just working very well with the sterilization.
Yeah, it's a little bit hotter. We didn't heat it just up to 40 degrees. We heated up to 80. That's the reason why it comes a little bit out. There's a lot of pressure on the cans.
But actually, with the dishes from Alexander Guest, which was coming from the region of Stuttgart, the Swabian region.
I actually give you food
dishes,
what I didn't try.
Spätzle, they were very good, and we had some testing where people were preferring the food from the can as from the actual catering. So that was quite funny.
If you're nosy, I wouldn't mind. Just come here and then you have a look by yourself as well.
Yes, but before maybe, ladies and gentlemen, we can give them a big round of applause, Jörg and Mathieu.